from the Mercy One studio.
Support for Faith on Trial and Iowa Catholic Radio provided in part by Imogene Ingredients.
Our freedom of conscience and religion is being challenged by laws and regulations imposed by secular society. It's time to hear from the top Christian litigators in the nation who have come forward to tell us the truth and help us defend our faith.
Hear ye, hear ye. All rise. Faith on Trial with Defender of the Faith, Deacon Mike Mano, is in session.
And good Thursday morning from the Mercy One studios in West Des Moines. Gina, how are you this morning?
I am well, Deacon Mike. Look at this. We've gotten a beautiful sunny day in the middle of November.
That's right, we do. And it's just in time for the landscapers to finish up my backyard.
I heard you were having some work done. That's
nice.
Right.
5 sons. And they advertise on this station from Winterset.
They support Iowa Catholic Radio.
They are finishing up today.
And you're happy with their work?
I'm very happy with their work, yeah.
Nice.
We had a little interruption, with the Dre show and all that came through.
Did you get your yard destroyed?
It got things pushed back a little bit because of everything that was going on. But we're finishing it up. We wanted to finish up by fall, and it's being finished up. And they're doing a good job. Nice people to work with. Very nice people to work with.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yes.
Glad to hear that. So we got to enjoy the day. I'm in my sweats, ready to go for a long walk after the show.
I should do that, too. I haven't been out exercising at all, and my body is starting to show it. So,
no, Deacon Mike. Walking is a good exercise.
I need to do that, and I was doing that before. I should go back to the gym. I was going to the gym 3 days a week, and I got out of that when the gyms closed and just haven't gotten back into it. But I had been going for a while during the summer for walks. And but when it got cold, I stopped doing that. And
did I hear that there was more snow in October this year than we've had so far in November?
Well, we may have. I don't know.
It was an ugly, cold October.
Yeah.
We're going to enjoy today, a gift from God.
That's right. So sit back, have another cup of coffee while we do our thing here, and then you can go out too and run around in the nice weather. It is beautiful out there. It is beautiful, and I'm happy we've had good weather to do our backyard.
Exactly. It's done and ready to go. It'll be beautiful in the spring.
That's right. We got a good show today, I think.
I do, too.
We're going to talk about a little girl who's 9 years old in third grade who goes to a school where you're required to wear, at least at certain times, masks, like you are a lot of places. And she had one that says, "Jesus loves me." That is forbidden in that school. You could have Black Lives Matter. You could have New York Yankees. You could have whatever you wanted. But if you had anything religious, like Jesus loves me, then you violated their rules.
School policy.
And actually, they weren't rules at the time.
They
changed them
to cover their butts.
Cover their track.
We have a lawyer defending this 9-year-old in her
Michael
First
Ross
Amendment rights.
From the Center for Academic Freedom of the Alliance Defending Freedom. He's going to be joining us. And Myrna Flynn, who's president of the Massachusetts Citizens for Life, going to talk to us about this horrible abortion bill that is pending in the Massachusetts legislature right now. I think it's passed.
It's more a parental rights bill than it is abortion.
Part of it is that too, yeah.
The reason they're restricting parents is because they would like to have easier access for young ladies to have an abortion. They want to have easier
access to our kids. Is what they want, yeah.
That's right.
And then as I read it, it allows or it authorizes physicians to simply watch a baby die if it's born after a failed abortion, which is...
It includes a lot of bad stuff, I think.
Yeah, well,
I'll be anxious to hear Miss Maloney's description of what's going on.
Myrna will certainly tell us about that. She has roots in Esterville, by the way.
Oh,
Iowa.
She's an Iowan.
I don't think she's an Iowan. I think she was raised in. Well, we'll have her figure that out for us. But I think she was raised in Minnesota. But her parents were from Esterville.
Okay.
And so, but she does have some connections with Iowa. So it's kind of interesting that she would do that. All right, one of the things I want to remind you about here is that if you want to stay connected with Iowa Catholic Radio, you can do so through our newsletter and just sign up at iowacatholicradio.com, and you can be receiving our newsletter.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's other things that you can get in your inbox, too. I get the daily rosary from
That's right.
Iowa Catholic Radio.
We get a lot, right. And there's a lot on this station that I'm sure some people don't realize there. They only tune in for a show or two that they like. But there's a lot of other things on this station where we try and keep in touch with the people. I mentioned this before, probably years ago, but I remember when I was first ordained, I would go out to nursing homes and elderly centers, retirement homes and things like that. And I would go into a lot of rooms where people were kind of bedridden or they were in a chair and they couldn't really
not very mobile.
Get around.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go in, bring them communion and to pray with them. And there were a lot of those rooms I went into where the radio was on this station, was on Iowa Catholic Radio.
Nice.
And they listened to that all day long, and they had the rosaries out there with them and everything. So we do... we think that we do a lot of good for people out there, for Catholics, and for any Christian really that wants to listen to us, or even people that are searching and questioning what they want to do. That maybe we can provide them some good answers, and we have certainly a lot of programming that is geared to all of that, especially some of the afternoon programs that we have, the network programming.
Saving souls, one at a time.
Yep,
Thanks to our supporters.
That's right. Yeah, and you can be a supporter too. Just call it a donation. We can use it any
day
time.
of the week.
Any day of the week.
That's right.
All right. Go ahead.
Would you like me to start with a prayer
I was just
today?
going to ask you to do that, yes.
I have a prayer for peace. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. God of peace, bring your peace to our violent world, peace in the hearts of all men and women, and peace among the nations of this earth. Turn to your way of love those whose hearts and minds are consumed with hatred. Strengthen us in hope, and give us the wisdom and courage to work tirelessly for a world where true peace and love reign among nations and in the hearts of all. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Gina. And you're listening to Faith on Trial on Iowa Catholic Radio. And when we come back, we're going to have Michael Ross, counsel for the Center for Academic Freedom, the Alliance Defending Freedom, about the little girl with the Jesus Loves Me mask. We'll be right back.
Thank you, Blessman International, for their support of Iowa Catholic Radio. Everyone lives their life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. How we use that time directly affects if our life will leave a significant impact or not. Each year, Blessman International leads Central Iowans on a 12-day, all-inclusive experience sharing the heart of Christ with children in South Africa. Teams are forming to do something significant in an African child's life. Learn more at blessmaninternational.org. That's blessmaninternational.org.
Is it time for a new roof? Then it could be time for you to get to know Bell Construction. Bell Construction is a roofing company entering its 30th year of business. They specialize in residential re-roofs, light commercial jobs, and have the experience to meet all of your roofing needs with personal service. With Bell Construction, the owner will come to your home or place of business in person to inspect and ensure the quality of work that you deserve. They pride themselves in working with you on a personal basis and making sure you are satisfied. Bell Construction, 515-963-4494.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio provided by the Catholic Tuition Organization.
Your support of CTO provides qualifying families tuition assistance to send their kiddos to our Catholic schools. They benefit, and you benefit, with 65% Iowa tax credits. Online at ctoiowa.org.
Until December 15th, contributions from new donors are matched. New donors double their impact with a donation to CTO, thanks to the Reichart Family Foundation.
The bottom line, it's for the kids and their future. Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Dowling Catholic Sports is provided in part by Ashworth Vision Clinic. With 2 licensed optometrists, Barbara Sheets, a Dowling graduate, and Dr. Craig Harper, the Ashworth Vision Clinic team provides complete eye exams, contact lenses, glasses, glaucoma testing, and pre- and post-operative care. Ashworth Vision Clinic is located at 60th and Ashworth in West Des Moines. 515-440-4610 or online, ashworthvision.com.
Thank you, Dental Associates, for underwriting Dowling Catholic Sports 365. With over 40 years' experience, Dental Associates is a group dental practice with the mission of promoting optimum health and well-being to all patients, providing preventative, restorative, and cosmetic dentistry for the entire family. Message underwritten by Dr. Kenton Gleichman, Dr. Steve Karbaka, Dr. Christine Mulcahy, and Dr. Ben Nagel. Dental Associates, addressing your smile, needs, and dreams. Online at Des Moines-DentalAssociates.com. Fabian.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Faith on Trial provided by Paul Martin and Paul Mitchell, owners of Imogene Ingredients. Imogene Ingredients supply specialized feed ingredients for livestock and pet diets to improve maternal and young animal health in both conventional and organic production. And you're listening to Faith on Trial on Iowa Catholic Radio. Michael Ross is counsel with the Center for Academic Freedom for the Alliance Defending Freedom, and he is representing, or the center is representing, a young lady by the name of, I think it's Lydia Booth, who's a 9-year-old third grade student who was told she can't wear her Jesus Loves Me mask in school. Michael, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Deacon Mike.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is just about a public school that's telling a girl she can't wear a mask because it has religious expression. It's pretty straightforward. It's just like you said, Lydia Booth, she's a third grader in Mississippi, and she went and wore her Jesus Loves Me mask like she had done many times before. And, you know, that's a message that's very near and dear to her as a Christian. And the school told her you can't wear it because it's religious. And schools have no business picking and choosing what messages they can approve or disapprove of on campus.
And it seems to me they did not have any rules about what could be on masks at the time. In other words, you can wear any type of mask if you were required to wear a mask.
That's absolutely correct. And I think that just underscores, you know, that they are singling her out for her religious beliefs. They put these policies in place after the fact, and I do want everyone to know that these policies themselves are also completely unconstitutional, saying that you can't have a religious mask, but they came in only after she was wearing the mask itself, and I think it just underscores that they are singling her out.
Do you have any idea what triggered it? Because according to the story, she had been wearing it for at least a month before they pulled her aside and asked her to remove it.
Well, we're not sure. We just know that one of the teachers warned her about it, and then that the next Tuesday, the principal of the school got Lydia pulled aside and had a teacher remove and replace her mask. And so we can't speculate as to what the school's doing, but we do know that when they have the authority to come in and censor whatever message they think might be offensive, that there's a problem.
Now, some schools I know do have policies that regard messages, whether it's on a T-shirt or your clothing of some sort, to prevent gang activity or hate messages. Are those kinds of messages legal? I mean, can they do that sort of thing, or is that comparable to this situation?
Well, there's no doubt that the school has the authority to limit things that, you know, profanity and things that might cause a severe and substantial disruption, but that's just so far from what we have here. Lydia, there'd never been any disruption apart from what the school itself created when it told her she couldn't wear the mask, and no one had ever said anything. Like you said, she wore the mask for about a month leading up to the first incident where the school made an issue out of this. And the fact that the school is lumping in religious speech with profanity and obscenity is, frankly, offensive, and it's unconstitutional.
Some of the students were wearing Black Lives Matter masks, according to the information that I have. Were they stopped? Were they told to take that off?
Well, we know that many of them wore it without incident, and it's still an open question. The school, of course, denies that there was Black Lives Matter masks, but we do know that around the district where they enacted this policy at the high school and other schools in the district, there were students with political messages, Black Lives Matter included, and many other messages for that matter. But if you wear a religious message, they said you can't bring it to school.
I can understand them banning, for example, T-shirts and things that have tobacco or liquor or beer advertising on them for students. But it seems to me that anytime you bring in religion or a religious idea into the schools, they just react like, they go berserk over it. I know we've had up here in Des Moines not too many years ago a young girl in a local high school. Matter of fact, it was a high school from which the Tinker case came from. Was wearing a pro-life T-shirt, and she was told she had to take that off, or I guess turned it inside out for the day and not ever wear it again. And that created a big hullabaloo up here. I would assume, knowing what ADF does, that you have dozens of similar cases, or you have had them over the years.
Yes, absolutely, and it's been hundreds, and I'm glad you brought that up, because what we're seeing is just this gut reaction from schools where religious speech seems to be verboten, and the schools try and keep it as far away from the school gates as possible. But it's quite simple. The Constitution, the Supreme Court precedent, establishes that school students don't forfeit their right to free speech, and especially their right to religious freedom, just because they step onto school gates.
Right out of Tinker. Right out of Tinker.
That's absolutely right.
All right, so what is your lawsuit alleging, and what is it asking for?
Absolutely. Well, we want the school to do the right thing, roll back the policy, stop discriminating against religious viewpoints, and let Lydia wear her mask. We're hopeful that the school will do the right thing. We're currently in settlement negotiations with them. We will see if those bear any fruit. But regardless, we've also filed a motion for immediate relief, and we have a hearing date set for the middle of December on that.
Okay.
Not too far along.
No.
When I think of Mississippi, I think of it as, the heart of the Bible Belt. I can't imagine that Lydia is the only student in this school district that wants to express her religious beliefs on masks, T-shirts, clothing, any kind of, folders, backpacks, any way. Are there?
I can't imagine that either. Go ahead.
Oh, I just was wondering if you were getting quite a bit of support from other families from the school district.
We have. We've seen a lot of support. Lydia's parents have gotten a lot of support from various, even school officials, and a lot of parents in the area. And it just goes to show you that it just takes one person to stand up, and it often can serve as a rallying cry and helps embolden and encourage others. And this is not just a case about a mask or even just about Lydia. It's about the public school telling a girl that she can't wear a mask with a message that's important to her. When the schools come in and they censor religious views, and they make these students feel ashamed of their religious beliefs, and the First Amendment doesn't allow that. That's not a good message to send anyone. And so it's something that we think is so important that people are aware of, and that we have people willing to stand up for that.
And what a great expression or example for the students about their faith, about maintaining their faith in the light of opposition. It's almost a great lesson in a sad sort of way.
It is. It certainly is. We're hopeful for a good outcome, and in that sense, we're hoping for a great lesson and a happy lesson in the end. But we're still in the middle of the fight right now. But it's so important that we be able to express our religious beliefs and our political and ideological beliefs, and just be able to express them freely. And it's terrible when schools come in and make a child feel ashamed of her religious beliefs. When I talked with Lydia's mom, she said to me that Lydia came home and said, "What's wrong with sharing Jesus?" And it was such a sad moment, and it impressed on me how important it is that we be able to express beliefs like that freely in our country.
It reminds me of the case a number of years ago that we, I think it was out of Florida. It was an elementary student, a young boy who was praying over his lunch every afternoon.
And he was told he couldn't do it.
And he was told he couldn't do it. Yeah. It just, it surprises me that schools don't understand the First Amendment, especially as many cases as have come to light.
The Tinker case.
Yeah, for years.
Right out of Des Moines, yeah.
half a decade, or half of a century ago.
Yeah. And yet it was at that same school in Des Moines that they made the girl take off her pro-life T-shirt.
Just testing the boundaries, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We're lucky to have people like the ADF, the Alliance Defending Freedom.
Right, and the Center for Academic Freedom, my understanding is that's something that was set up by ADF because of so many of these school and college cases.
That's absolutely right. We set this up about a decade ago, and it's because we're seeing speech censored so much on campus, and that is more prevalent now than ever. Both at the K through 12 level and at the university level, we've seen the rise of cancel culture and so many other things where conservatives and religious individuals are just afraid to express themselves on campus. And I think ADF and so many other people realize we can't win the fights in the public square tomorrow if we don't win the young minds today.
Yeah, I think I had some information here because I was writing a column for The Wanderer about the number of students or the percentage of students who are self-censoring themselves now because they're afraid what their teachers and their peers and that will say if they express conservative views. Let's see, and I have here 60% of liberal students in this survey that I think it was done by FIRE, Individual Rights in Education. 60% of liberal students says it's always or sometimes acceptable to shut down a speaker. This obviously is getting way out of hand here.
It certainly is, and that's why we need people who are willing to stand up, and that's why we need to re-educate people on the values of the First Amendment and the good that it provides. It allows people to flourish when we allow them to live according to their conscience, when we let people participate in the marketplace of ideas. That's what the schools are supposed to be, where we have this dialogue of opposing viewpoints and differing viewpoints, and they all come together, and we talk about them peacefully and resolve things peacefully and reasonably.
Well, and I think psychology backs that up. I recently heard a doctor speaking about how limiting speech and can actually be more harmful than allowing open speech, even hate speech, because hate builds if you're not allowed to express your opinion or your voice.
That's absolutely right. You know, sometimes we need to hear things that we don't want to hear. I think we all know that to be true in our personal lives and just in the public square in general. We need to be challenged on the things that we think so that we can sharpen our ideas, so that we can maybe change course if we need to. And you know, that's the foundation for the First Amendment, and really part of what makes America so great is that we value this free expression and free thought.
Yeah, it never hurts to be challenged in your viewpoint. It makes you dig a little bit deeper in what you truly believe and truly think, and maybe find out you might be wrong about something. These cases, another thing, Michael, it seems these cases usually end up either in a settlement or a victory for the First Amendment. Is my analysis there correct? Is that the way they're ending up? Are the courts really coming down in favor of free speech?
That's been our experience, Deacon Mike. The vast majority of our cases settle, and the ones that settle usually settle early on because the precedent is established so clearly. And that just, that's such a stark contrast with the way that school administrators are acting. And so in a sense, we have to re-educate them on what the First Amendment guarantees the students that they're trying to, control or censor or do whatever. But we need to teach them to respect the First Amendment rights. And again, it's just so important that we do that for this, younger generation of students.
Okay, what's a parent to do then when their student comes home and says, guess what, Mommy, Daddy, this is what I was told at school about whatever. How are parents to react?
Well, obviously, tell them to pray about it, but for some practical relief, they can go to our website. We have handouts, Know Your Rights on Campus, and they can get a primer on First Amendment rights. If they feel like it's something that they can't resolve themselves, where the school administration is wrong and is being very recalcitrant, they can reach out to ADF. We have different ways to contact us on the website or through email or phone, and we'd be happy to take a look at it.
I have adfmedia.org as a website that they can go to, and I think you can also sign up for bulletins and announcements and whatever newsletters you put out, too.
That's right.
And I should also mention, if you got any spare change, it's a place where you can donate some of it, because all your services are free.
Yes.
Right?
That's correct. We are funded by generous donors so that we can support all of these students pro bono. Okay. All right. So it's all there. So if somebody has a problem, you can contact them. And I know ADF has hundreds of allied or affiliate lawyers throughout the country that are willing to meet with people, I suppose, just about any time if they've got a problem. That's absolutely correct. And also want to make sure I plug our social media. We have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well, if people want to follow what's going on with us.
Good. All right. Well, good luck with Lydia Booth. I'm sure that knowing the trajectory of these things, that you're probably going to prevail on this. But we'll keep you and we'll keep Lydia and her family in our prayers. I want to thank you for joining us. Certainly appreciate your time. And again, that's adfmedia.org is the website if you want to go to. Michael Ross, Counsel for the Center for Academic Freedom at the Alliance Defending Freedom. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Yes. Thank you, Deacon Mike and Jean. It was a pleasure.
We certainly appreciate it. You're listening to Faith on Trial on Iowa Catholic Radio, and we will be right back after these messages.
Thank you, Blessman International, for their support of Iowa Catholic Radio. Everyone lives their life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. How we use that time directly affects if our life will leave a significant impact or not. Each year, Blessman International leads Central Iowans on a 12-day, all-inclusive experience sharing the heart of Christ with children in South Africa. Teams are forming to do something significant in an African child's life. Learn more at blessmaninternational.org. That's blessmaninternational.org. Support for Iowa Catholic Radio provided by the Catholic Tuition Organization.
Your support of CTO provides qualifying families tuition assistance to send their kiddos to our Catholic schools. They benefit, and you benefit, with 65% Iowa tax credits. Online at ctoiowa.org.
Until December 15th, contributions from new donors are matched. New donors double their impact with a donation to CTO, thanks to the Reichart Family Foundation.
The bottom line, it's for the kids and their future. Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Dowling Catholic Sports is provided in part by Ashworth Vision Clinic. With 2 licensed optometrists, Barbara Sheets, a Dowling graduate, and Dr. Craig Harper, the Ashworth Vision Clinic team provides complete eye exams, contact lenses, glasses, glaucoma testing, and pre- and post-operative care. Ashworth Vision Clinic is located at 60th and Ashworth in West Des Moines. 515-440-4610 or online, ashworthvision.com.
Thank you, Dental Associates, for underwriting Dowling Catholic Sports 365. With over 40 years' experience, Dental Associates is a group dental practice with the mission of promoting optimum health and well-being to all patients, providing preventative, restorative, and cosmetic dentistry for the entire family. Message underwritten by Dr. Kenton Gleichman, Dr. Steve Karbaka, Dr. Christine Mulcahy, and Dr. Ben Nagel. Dental Associates, addressing your smile, needs, and dreams. Online at DesMoines-DentalAssociates.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Faith on Trial provided by Paul Martin and Paul Mitchell, owners of Imogene Ingredients. Imogene Ingredients supply specialized feed ingredients for livestock and pet diets to improve maternal and young animal health in both conventional and organic production. Information about Pharmatan and other products at ImogeneIngredients.com. Paul and Paul are members of St. Augustine's Knights of Columbus and encourage their brother knights to keep standing for their faith.
Here's your forecast on Iowa Catholic Radio. Sunshine and breezy through the afternoon, around 72 on our high. Overnight looks clear, down to about 40. Quite a bit cooler tomorrow. We'll stay in the mid-50s with a mix of sun and clouds. The weather is brought to you by Rock Valley Physical Therapy, outstanding outpatient physical therapy and sports medicine rehabilitation with 7 convenient locations in the Des Moines Metro and Southwest Iowa area. I'm meteorologist Steve Hamilton on Iowa Catholic Radio.
And you're listening to Faith on Trial on Iowa Catholic Radio. Myrna Malloy Flynn is president of Massachusetts Citizens for Life. She's joining us right now. Myrna, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Certainly. You know, normally I ask people, or a lot of times I ask people if you've ever been to Iowa before, but I understand you have some Iowa connection.
I absolutely do. My roots are in Iowa, I am proud to say. Both of my parents were raised in Esterville, up near the Minnesota border.
Right. Yeah.
And so as a kid, I spent many a road trip traveling down from the Twin Cities to visit my godparents and many, many cousins in Esterville.
Very good, very good. Well, so you're somewhat familiar with us here, and then somehow I guess you got moved to the People's Republic of Massachusetts. And, all right, tell us, now you are the president of Massachusetts Citizens for Life, so tell us a little bit about this act that is, or this proposed law that's working its way through the legislature up there that you oppose. It's an abortion bill. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it and give us the horror story that goes along with it?
Sure. Well, it's called the Roe Act, and Roe, R-O-E, is an acronym that stands for Remove Obstacles and Expand Access. It has nothing to do with Roe versus Wade, which the other side has really played to their benefit, because the more the issue is in the media, the more listeners and the general public think that this has something to do with the legality of abortion here in Massachusetts. And so, consequently, the general public is very aware of this bill, and they're very scared that abortion will become illegal here if the Roe Act is not passed. And so it's made our work that much more challenging to really educate the public about what this bill would do for women, for girls, and the implication it would have on the lives of infants here in the state of Massachusetts.
Okay, so what changes would it make in current law in Massachusetts? Or let's step back a minute. What is the current law in Massachusetts? Are there any restrictions at all on abortions?
Well, that's a very good way to phrase the question, because abortion is very accessible here, and that's the very questionable thing about this bill. You know, they're advocating for more access, and yet year over year, the past few years, we've seen over 18,000 abortions here in the state of Massachusetts. And as you know, the state is relatively small. We've got the best hospitals in the world. It's pretty easy to obtain an abortion here in Massachusetts. The laws that are in the books are not heavily enforced, particularly those that involve minors obtaining abortions. So one provision that is included in the Roe Act is that parental consent would be eliminated. Currently, one parent is required to consent for their underage daughter to obtain an abortion, or a girl must go before a judge to obtain permission. So the proponents of this bill want to eliminate those requirements. So if this bill passes, a girl would be able to obtain an abortion without any other adult knowing about it except the abortionist.
And the only counsel she would have under those circumstances is from the medical provider or the agency that she approached with her situation.
That's exactly correct.
That's so dangerous.
So it's dangerous. It's irresponsible. And this is the one provision in this bill that has caused the public to actually pause and consider why the supporters of this bill are pushing it. The governor here in Massachusetts, Governor Charlie Baker, is Republican, although he's pro-choice, and he has said in the past that he thinks abortion law here is fine as is. He has voiced his concern about the Roe Act, and we're hoping that he will maintain his prior commitment to vetoing this legislation if it gets to his desk, which, based on what has happened in the past 10 days or so, it looks like it will get to his desk. And so the Roe Act itself has had a bit of a transformation just since the election, in that it has been included as part of our state's budget proposal. And the budget, which has not yet been passed for the coming year, is making its way through the legislature. This abortion bill has been tacked on as an amendment, it's been very sneakily included into the budget, and that has angered the governor because he does not want policy included in the budget, and that was sort of laid out very clear among all sides.
Now in Iowa, our governor has line item veto authority. How will Governor Baker be able to line item veto that portion of the budget bill?
We're confident that he will. The problem is that there is so much support for that bill within both houses, both sections of the legislature, that we're not sure that we would be able to sustain a veto. However, we're confident. The House passed this budget amendment 108 to 49 last week. We need 53 House members to sustain a veto, and we think that if Governor Baker vetoes this line item, it'll get sent back to the House. We think we can persuade 4 additional representatives to come to our side. So we're actually confident that we could put off this bill through the end of the session, which is the first part of January.
I took a peek before the program at the legislative makeup in Massachusetts, and it's predominantly very Democrat majority. And oftentimes members of the Democrat Party are very pro-abortion. Do you have any support? Are there any pro-life Democrats in the Massachusetts legislature?
Very few.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you have some, yes.
We do,
the ones
yes.
that haven't run out of the party yet. Yeah.
Correct, exactly. And, the Senate took up the issue yesterday and voted 33-7 in favor of essentially what is the Roe Act being included in the budget. So we knew we didn't have a chance in the Senate. The Senate is just way too radical. But all 4 Republicans in the Senate voted against it, as well as 3 pro-life Democrats. But the Senate is not in our favor at all. So that's why we're focusing our efforts in the House.
Is there a particular reason why they wanted to attach it to a budget bill?
Because they knew that it's so controversial, and they knew that it wouldn't get as much attention as it otherwise would. What happened when the Roe Act was first introduced, it was a lightning rod, and it was in the media daily, and both sides were keeping it there. Both sides were very activated, and you mentioned rightly that Massachusetts is a very blue state. However, the pro-life movement, ironically, in Massachusetts has always been quite strong. It is not as strong currently as it has been in the past, but we were able to recruit upwards of 1,000 pro-life supporters to come out to the hearing at the State House in June of 2019 when this bill was brought before the Judiciary Committee for a public hearing. And our people showed up en masse, and we ended up closing down the State House that night because the hearing went on for about 12 hours. And our side, one after the other, spoke before the committee members against the bill, against its dangers and against its just very poorly thought out provisions. And I've never been prouder to be in this movement. We are a minority here, but we are vocal. And the more that this issue is brought before the public, the more the public learns about the very careless implications of this bill, the more they speak up too. And that's really what I think is important when I'm speaking to your listeners who won't be affected by the Roe Act.
Not today, anyway.
Yeah, not today.
But these things have a way of creeping.
Exactly. But, eventually, yes, they may be faced with a similar bill. Because there's been similar bills in Illinois and Virginia and Rhode Island that have passed. And so it could be a matter of time before your listeners face something very similar.
Yeah, we kind of like to stop at the Mississippi River, but unfortunately sometimes it comes from the other direction, too. Let's take a look at some of the provisions of this bill. Let's see, removes protections for unborn babies, those that are born alive after a failed abortion. What is the status of that right now in Massachusetts? If a baby is born alive after a failed abortion, are the abortionists, the people that have just been trying to kill it, required to provide it medical care?
Yes. Currently there is a requirement that mandates that life-saving medical equipment be present in rooms where abortions are performed. The Roe Act would remove that requirement. Now, interestingly, in the past couple of weeks, as I said, this budget amendment has been rewritten a bit. So it's not the original Roe Act. It's very similar. But what the new amendment indicates is that life-saving equipment will be required, just as it is now. It will be required to stay in the rooms. However, this amendment is written in such a way that providers will not be required to actually use it. So it's just as frightening now as it was originally.
Now,
another provision.
Go ahead.
I was just going to also speak to the provision that would allow late-term abortions or abortions past 24 weeks to be performed on babies who have been diagnosed with what are being called fetal anomalies. In other words, infants who have been diagnosed with very severe medical conditions in utero. This bill would enable abortions to be performed. And again, the language is the suspect part about this bill, because the language in that case says that it is in the medical judgment, or the best medical judgment of the physician. And so that could mean anything. That could allow procedures to be performed on a viable infant for any reason. And that leads to questions about what is ethical in terms of discrimination on an infant who will be disabled for his or her lifetime.
Or
that
have the
raises
wrong
questions
color
about
eyes, maybe.
Who exactly.
Where do you draw
it's
the
a very
line?
slippery slope. Exactly.
I want to go back to this, the protection for the newborn babies. You're going to have the life-saving equipment in the room, but they don't have to use it. What if the mother, and we've heard stories of mothers going into Planned Parenthood or someplace and then somewhere along the line changing their mind. What happens if the mother, seeing the baby, if they show it to her, or hearing the baby, decides, no, I don't want you to let it die? Is there any requirement then that the doctors would have to provide life-saving support for that baby?
That is a question that is a very good one, and I don't know the specific answer to that. I do know that an infant born alive after a failed abortion is not protected under the law if this bill passes.
So these people that have pledged to first do no harm can sit there and just watch this little baby wiggle and die.
Correct. As I said, the equipment will have to be there, but there is no requirement that the doctor, the abortionist, would actually have to use it to save the infant's life. So it's people here are using the word infanticide quite often because, in effect, that's what the results would be. Infanticide is a very troublesome word. It raises a lot of alarm bells, rightly so. We try to withhold from using that term when we're speaking publicly because we want the other side to be able to have a dialogue with us, and when they hear terms like infanticide, their walls go up, and it makes dialogue that much harder.
Okay.
So
now,
we try to stay away from it, but when you look at the facts on paper, that's what would be the case.
Now, I understand, too, that this bill would allow non-physicians to perform abortions, and they would not have to be performed in hospitals or in a hospital setting.
So part of that is correct. So the first version of this bill would have removed late-term abortions from hospitals. Now, late-term abortions, as you probably know, are multi-day procedures. They're very dangerous, and yet proponents of the Roe Act wanted abortions accessible, and they thought the best way to do that would be to take late-term abortions out of hospitals and into outpatient clinics. So when we argued against the Roe Act, we were saying, this is not safe for women. This is not in women's best interest. And legislators heard us because that has been taken out of the budget amendment and put back in. So late-term abortions will still have to be performed in hospitals. So we've won. We can say that we've won on that point.
Okay. And then what about the non-physicians? Would that allow physicians' assistants or nurse practitioners to perform abortions?
Exactly. And this is a new provision that was not in the original bill that has now been rewritten and included in the revised Roe Act.
Okay.
So it's, we're scratching our heads. The proponents have been saying that we need access for women because it's harder to obtain abortions, it's expensive to obtain abortions, and so they're really compromising women's safety by the wording that they have included in this bill. It's frightening.
And then I see the bill also eliminates criminal penalties for the performance of an abortion that is incompetently executed or performed by a non-physician or inflicted on a victim of sex trafficking, statutory rape, or other sexual abuse. That's still in the bill?
Yes.
So
again, it's going back to how is the provider protected, and that's been the issue with late-term abortions here to date. Physicians have not been able to legally perform them, and they've been very hesitant, even in cases where infants have been diagnosed with very serious medical defects. They've been hesitant to allow late-term abortions because they knew they could be prosecuted. And so that issue that you just raised is still very much an issue in this bill. And it's, again, when you come down to viability and is that infant a citizen of the state of Massachusetts deserving of protection under the law, this bill says, in fact, no.
I have one other question here, Myrna, and that has to do with notification or reporting mandates. If a young girl, assuming they reduce the age where you need parental consent, say a young girl, 13 years old, goes in for an abortion, and it seems obvious to somebody that she is being sex trafficked or is a victim of statutory rape or even rape itself, is there any requirement under the law in Massachusetts that those cases be referred to the police or to the child welfare services or to somebody, district attorney, who would then be empowered to investigate?
I want to say that any decent person would absolutely report those kinds of situations. The people here in Massachusetts are good people with good hearts. However, under this law, the reporting requirement on those situations and also on the numbers of abortions performed going forward, that data, though mandated to be collected, it never has to be reported out. So I shared earlier, for instance, that we know that there have been upwards of 18,000 abortions performed in the state every year. Those kinds of numbers won't be available going forward. So we will never know how many 13-year-old girls have obtained abortions. We will never know how many injuries there have been or how many infants have died who survived abortions. We will never know any of this information should this bill or this budget amendment pass. And so it's really up to us now to educate the public, which we're trying very hard to do in a very short amount of time. It's difficult because there is so much concern that because the Supreme Court now seems to be a pro-life Supreme Court, that's what citizens here are most concerned about. They're concerned about abortion becoming illegal. And that's just not what will happen. If Roe versus Wade is overturned by the Supreme Court, the abortion issue simply goes back to each state to decide. In Massachusetts, I will tell you right now, abortion will always be legal unless it is outlawed at the federal level one day. And if that happens, then this legislation is moot anyways. And so there's been such a knee-jerk reaction by the part of very radical pro-abortion supporters that this bill and the Roe Act that preceded it have just not been well thought out. And it will be to the detriment of our women, our girls, and our infants if it passes.
Walking through it with you this morning and all of its pieces of this legislation put together in a big picture, to me, makes a back alley abortion sound safer than this legislation.
In some senses, yes.
Absolutely.
We don't want that either. But
absolutely
again,
not. It's like legalizing the whole reason Roe v. Wade for the safety and rarity of of abortions was enacted, it feels like it's almost making legal something that we thought was a problem at one point in history.
Correct. And, the more we speak about the legality of abortion and we try to, it's really coming down to needing to take a step back as a society and not so much consider the legality of abortion, but ultimately making it unthinkable. Really just taking into consideration the issue as a human rights concern, perhaps the most egregious, and changing the conversation and asking people to stop and consider the violence that is inherent in every single abortion.
Exactly.
Asking people to envision, though it's very uncomfortable to do so, the exact thing that happens in an abortion at any stage, and ask ourselves as a society how it is just. How are we allowing this to happen millions of times
and celebrating
a year
on top of it,
and shouting your abortion and saying to women that there is one way and one way only to feel empowered if you want to succeed, and that is to kill your own child.
Right.
How are women buying this? That is our question.
Unfortunately, the time is running against us right now, but real quick, do you have you want to give out your website so people know how to contact you?
Sure, absolutely. It's MASS, M-A-S-S, citizensforlife.org. And one last quick word for your listeners. Again, I would value people listening right now to get involved. Use your voice. Don't turn your head away from this issue, because we need you. We need the pro-life voices out there, because I do believe, as stacked against us as the odds may be here in Massachusetts, it's a matter of time before our society does see the humanity and dignity of the unborn child. But we can't get there unless everybody steps up and opens their mouth and takes that first step forward.
Thank you, Myrna. We're going to have to leave it there because we have time break coming up. But thank you for joining us today. And you're listening
Thanks very much for having me.
Faith on Trial on Iowa Catholic Radio. We'll be right back.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio provided by the Catholic Tuition Organization.
Your support of CTO provides qualifying families tuition assistance to send their kiddos to our Catholic schools. They benefit, and you benefit, with 65% Iowa tax credits. Online at ctoiowa.org.
Until December 15th, contributions from new donors are matched. New donors double their impact with a donation to CTO, thanks to the Reichart Family Foundation.
The bottom line, it's for the kids and their future. Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Dowling Catholic Sports is provided in part by Ashworth Vision Clinic. With 2 licensed optometrists, Barbara Sheets, a Dowling graduate, and Dr. Craig Harper, the Ashworth Vision Clinic team provides complete eye exams, contact lenses, glasses, glaucoma testing, and pre- and post-operative care. Ashworth Vision Clinic is located at 60th and Ashworth in West Des Moines. 515-440-4610 or online, ashworthvision.com.
Thank you, Dental Associates, for underwriting Dowling Catholic Sports 365. With over 40 years' experience, Dental Associates is a group dental practice with the mission of promoting optimum health and well-being to all patients, providing preventative, restorative, and cosmetic dentistry for the entire family. Message underwritten by Dr. Kenton Gleichman, Dr. Steve Karbaka, Dr. Christine Mulcahy, and Dr. Ben Nagel. Dental Associates, addressing your smile, needs, and dreams. Online at DesMoines-DentalAssociates.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Storm Alert Weather is provided by Divine Treasures. Divine Treasures is a Catholic book and gift store serving the Des Moines community for over 25 years. Their mission is to help Catholics know, love, and keep their faith in our Lord Jesus Christ and His Church. Divine Treasures is where you can find great Catholic books, beautiful Bibles, rosaries, jewelry, statues, and religious gifts for those memorable events in your life. Divine Treasures, 5701 Hickman Road, Des Moines, 515-255-5230. Thank you to Divine Treasures for their support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Faith on Trial provided by Paul Martin and Paul Mitchell, owners of Imogene Ingredients. Imogene Ingredients supply specialized feed ingredients for livestock and pet diets to improve maternal and young animal health in both conventional and organic production. Information about Pharmatan and other products at ImageneIngredients.com. Paul and Paul are members of St. Augustine's Knights of Columbus and encourage their brother knights to keep standing for their faith.
Thank you, Skeffington's Formal Wear, for sponsoring Dowling Catholic High School football. In business since 1951, Skeffington's Formal Wear offers quality service, style, and selection, providing tuxedos, suits, and casual groom attire for weddings, proms, and any other special occasion. Skeffington's Formal Wear, with convenient locations in Des Moines, West Des Moines, Davenport, Coralville, and Ankeny. All locations are family-owned and operated by members in their respective communities, fitting you for life celebrations. Online at skeffingtons.com.
And welcome back. You're listening to Faith on Trial on Iowa Catholic Radio. Interesting guest today, Gina.
Yes, the children. It's all about the children.
All about the children.
We really need our system needs to protect them better than we do, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Two eye-opening lessons.
Right. And as a parent of children in school, I'm always amazed at the policies that do not allow our children to express their opinion. I mean, I know that there are limits, and we as parents need to limit their expression of their opinions. But in these cases where they're sharing their faith, they need to be lifted up and heralded for that.
Yes, and supported. And we certainly appreciate their efforts.
That's right. And these Right to Life organizations, God bless them all. Prayers for them all. They do God's work.
Speaking of prayers, we have to kind of cut it off here and
yes.
end with our prayer.
With our prayer to
St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle, be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray, and do thou, Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. That's it for today. We'll be off next week for Thanksgiving, but we'll be back following Thanksgiving for another edition of Faith on Trial. Until then, have a blessed and peaceful week and a great Thanksgiving.
Our freedom of conscience and religion is being challenged by laws and regulations imposed by secular society. Faith on Trial with Defender of the Faith, Deacon Mike Mano. Faith on Trial, Thursdays at 10 a.m. on Iowa Catholic Radio, iowacatholicradio.com, and the Iowa Catholic Radio app.
Support for Faith on Trial and Iowa Catholic Radio provided in part by Imogene Ingredients.